You can always tell where someone's heart really is, not by what they say in a moment of vulnerability or charm, but by what they do when you're not around. And if you're wondering whether he's waiting for you, start by asking yourself this: is he pursuing anyone else? Because here's the truth: when a man genuinely sees something rare in you, when you've left a lasting mark on his life, the idea of entertaining other people doesn't excite him. It drains him. Because nothing compares. It's not that he's not getting attention. Maybe he is. Maybe he has options. But when he thinks of connection, of compatibility, of chemistry, of home, your name still echoes. And so he doesn't pursue distractions. He doesn't chase temporary validation. He doesn't look to fill the silence with noise. He chooses to stay still in a world that tells him to move on fast. That's rare. We live in a world where people jump from person to person as if it's some kind of achievement, where talking to 3 people at once is normal, and where emotional detachment is worn like armor. But when a man is truly waiting for you, he rejects that game entirely. He doesn't scatter his energy, he saves it for the one person he can't seem to replace. That kind of patience doesn't come from weakness, it comes from depth. It comes from knowing the difference between attraction and alignment, between chemistry and compatibility, between liking someone and being undeniably drawn to them. And maybe he's not telling you this outright. Maybe you're not hearing it in late night messages or romantic gestures, but his actions are doing the talking. His absence from the dating scene isn't just coincidence. It's a quiet form of loyalty, a loyalty that says, even if we're not together, I'm not interested in pretending anyone else feels like you. You may wonder, but if he's waiting, why isn't he chasing me? Understand this: waiting and chasing aren't always the same thing. Chasing is about control. Waiting is about respect. He might sense that you're not ready, that the timing isn't right, that you're healing, growing, focused on your own path. And instead of forcing something, instead of pushing or overwhelming you, he steps back, but he doesn't move on. That's the difference. See, a man who's not pursuing anyone else isn't sitting in some fantasy version of you. He's remembering the real you. The connection you shared, the standard you set. And deep down, he knows he can't recreate that with someone new. He could settle, but he doesn't want to, because he's tasted something rare, something that woke him up, something that made the rest of the world quieter. And so he waits, not with desperation, but with clarity. Not because he has no options, but because those options aren't you. He may not be texting you every day, and he may not show up on your doorstep, but look closely. His silence is not absence, it's intention. This kind of waiting comes from a place of maturity. He's not chasing excitement, he's holding space. He's not trying to replace you to soothe his ego. He's using the distance to reflect, to prepare, to understand what it would actually mean to show up for you in the way you deserve. In a world of temporary connections, surface level flings, and people who move on within days, someone who chooses not to pursue anyone else is making a powerful statement, one that doesn't need to be shouted, one that's felt in the quiet, in the consistency, in the unwavering energy that says, I see you, I value you, and no one else compares. There's a kind of silence that feels like abandonment, and then there's a kind of silence that feels like presence. When someone is gone but not gone, absent but still emotionally anchored to you, you feel it. You know it in the way they never fully close the door. And that matters more than most people are willing to admit. When a man is truly waiting for you, he doesn't vanish. He doesn't ghost, disappear, or act like you never existed. He leaves the door open. consistently. Even when he's giving you space, even when he's unsure about timing, even when circumstances don't allow him to pursue something fully right now. Because someone who's truly connected to you isn't looking for dramatic exits. He's not slamming doors to protect his pride or prove a point. He's not weaponizing silence to get attention. No, he's doing something far more mature. He's showing you with subtle but steady actions that the connection still matters, that you still matter. He may not be flooding your phone with messages. He may not be making grand declarations of love, but you hear from him. Not always, but enough. And enough to remind you that the connection didn't evaporate. Enough to keep the thread from snapping completely. That's not random. That's not accidental. That's intentional. He checks in. Maybe it's once a week. Maybe once a month. Maybe it's a message that feels casual, light, but it's laced with something deeper. A quiet sense that says, I'm still here. I haven't forgotten. I'm not closing the chapter. This is what most people miss. They assume that if someone's not all in, they're all out. But in real life, it's not always black and white. Sometimes people are navigating timing, healing, distance, uncertainty. But someone who's waiting for you will make sure that you never have to wonder if they've shut the door behind them. They won't give you a false sense of finality. Instead, their actions say, this door may not be wide open, but it's not locked. And it's definitely not closing anytime soon. There's a form of emotional intelligence in that, because it takes effort not to burn a bridge, not to retreat into ego, not to use silence as a punishment. It takes courage to say, I may not be in your life the way I want to be, but I still want to be part of your world in some way. And that's rare. And yes, it can be confusing, especially if you're someone who wants clarity. You might ask yourself, why does he keep reaching out if we're not moving forward? But that's exactly the point. He's not reaching out to keep you stuck. He's reaching out because the connection still means something to him. He's reaching out because deep down, he knows this isn't finished. He just may not know what the next step looks like yet. The consistency here is the key. Not frequency, consistency. The messages don't come every day, but they come. The timing isn't always perfect, but the energy behind them is sincere. He shows you again and again in small ways that the door is still open. And over time, that builds trust, not just in him, but in the connection itself. Because here's the truth, when someone doesn't care, they make it very easy to walk away. They go silent, they disappear, they create distance so wide you couldn't cross it if you tried. But when someone leaves the door open, it's because they're still hoping that one day you might walk back through it. He's not playing games, he's not breadcrumbing, he's just keeping the flame from dying out completely. Just enough warmth to let you know that if and when you're ready, this connection still has room to breathe. It's not loud, it's not obvious, but it's always there. Quiet messages, subtle gestures, a like, a memory shared, a simple just checking in. Little reminders that he hasn't walked away. Not emotionally, not mentally, not completely. He's still in this in his own way. And that's what makes the door stay open. Not once, not briefly, but consistently. There's a version of him that you already know. The one who made you feel something real. The one who showed glimpses of depth, of sincerity, of emotional connection that was rare. But there's also another version of him, the one he's not yet, but the one he's working to become. And that journey says more about how much you mean to him than any words ever could. Because when a man truly sees your worth, not just how you look or what you give, but who you are, something inside him shifts. He starts to measure himself not just by what he wants, but by what he's ready for. He starts asking, am I the man she actually deserves? And if the answer is no, he doesn't just ignore it. He does something about it. That's the moment everything changes. He doesn't rush in to give you a half-built version of himself. He doesn't pretend to be ready when he knows he's still holding baggage, still carrying patterns that don't belong in the kind of relationship he wants with you. Instead, he steps back, not out of fear, but out of respect. Not because he's walking away, but because he wants to come back stronger, clearer, more intentional. This is the kind of man who understands that love is not about showing up perfect, it's about showing up prepared. It's about becoming someone who can handle the emotional intimacy, the accountability, the presence that a real relationship requires. And for that, he knows he has work to do. Maybe he's been inconsistent in the past. Maybe he's avoided conflict, commitment, vulnerability. Maybe he's realized that the version of him you experienced wasn't capable of holding space for the woman you've become. And instead of clinging to you while staying the same, he's choosing the harder route, evolution. He's reading the books. He's sitting with his discomfort. He's learning how to communicate better, how to listen, how to express love in ways that actually land with you. He's not doing it to manipulate an outcome. He's doing it because he's finally awake to what it means to love someone like you. And it's not just emotional work. It's his habits, his mindset, his lifestyle. He starts thinking long term. He begins making choices that reflect stability, growth, and alignment. He's building a foundation, not just for himself, but for the possibility of you in his life. He wants to be proud of the man he is before he reaches out again. He wants to look you in the eye, knowing he's not asking you to shrink yourself just to fit into his life. Most people talk about love like it's supposed to be spontaneous, effortless, magical. But the truth is, love is a decision. And part of that decision is choosing to grow, not because someone forces you to, but because someone inspires you to. He wants to look into your eyes, not because someone forces you to, but because someone inspires you to. That's what you did. You showed him what's possible. You set a standard, not with ultimatums, but with the way you carried yourself. And now he's trying to rise to meet it. You may not see the changes right away. He may not post them online or talk about them openly. But growth often happens in silence, in solitude, in those moments where he's staring at his reflection and finally being honest about what's been holding him back, not just from you, but from himself. He's not just becoming a better man, he's becoming the man who can love you well. The man who can hold space for your dreams, handle your strength, support your softness. The man who doesn't just want you, but who knows how to keep you, how to nurture what you've already built and protect what could still be built between you. This isn't about perfection. It's about responsibility. It's about recognizing that someone like you doesn't come around often, and that if he's lucky enough to get a second chance, he won't waste it by being unprepared, unavailable, or emotionally unavailable. He wants to be proud of the way he shows up. He wants you to see the difference, not just in his words, but in who he's becoming. There's a certain kind of man who doesn't make excuses. He doesn't run from the mirror when it reflects things he doesn't like. He doesn't hide behind charm or distractions or temporary fixes. When he realizes he's not the man you deserve, not yet, he makes a quiet decision. A decision not to cling to you, not to beg for another chance he hasn't earned, but to go do the work. Because real men don't just want to be chosen. They want to be ready when they are. He's not focused on how to win you back. He's focused on who he needs to become so that when the time comes, he can stand beside you with clarity, with certainty, with pride. Not just someone who says all the right things, but someone whose life, actions, and values match what you bring to the table. And the work? It's not glamorous. It's not always visible. It happens in quiet rooms, in early mornings, in uncomfortable realizations. Where did he go wrong? What did he avoid? What patterns has he repeated that have cost him the kind of love that doesn't come around often? Maybe he was emotionally unavailable. Maybe he sabotaged stability because it felt unfamiliar. Maybe he mistook independence for disconnection and never showed up for you in the way he should have. And now, instead of numbing or blaming or finding a distraction, he's choosing to sit with all of that. Because a man who's becoming someone you deserve understands something most people miss. Love is not just about the heart. It's about capacity. It's about emotional responsibility. It's about being someone who doesn't just want connection, but knows how to maintain it when life gets messy, when doubts creep in, when fears show up. He's learning to be present without being possessive. Strong without being controlling, supportive without needing to be needed. He's developing the kind of masculine energy that leads with stability and calm, not chaos and confusion, because he knows you don't need fixing. You don't need saving. What you need is someone who can hold the space beside you without collapsing under the weight of his own unfinished work. He's starting to value the things he once ignored. Communication that goes deeper than surface level charm. Boundaries that create safety instead of distance. Listening that doesn't just wait for its turn to speak. He's not perfect, he knows that, but he's intentional now. He's no longer moving through life hoping things will change without changing himself.